Hey everybody, apparently it's been Hasbro week on Always Bored Never Boring, because this is the 5th video since Sunday that I've published relating to recently released or forthcoming products from their Avalon Hill subsidiary. I should be working on commission here. As you may know, Avalon Hill recently launched a crowdfunding campaign for a new edition of HeroScape, and that was pretty big news because HeroScape has a very active and loyal fan base who have been waiting for this return for the last 12 years or so. I talked about the campaign in some detail in my first video about HeroScape's return, but at that time the crowdfunding was only open to a very limited number of territories, namely the US states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, the US Virgin Islands, Army Post Office and Fleet Post Office addresses, and Canada, with the specific exclusion of Quebec. If you are in one of those territories, you can back the game on Hasbro Pulse to the tune of $249.99. There is only one backer tier and no add-on purchases. I subsequently found out that by visiting uk.hasbropulse.com it was possible to back the game in the UK as well. The offer there is exactly the same, but the price is £249.99. Of course, that still excludes a large chunk of the market, so I have been constantly checking in with Hasbro Pulse and Twitter, and some of my viewers have been contacting me with news too, and that leads us here to this update. As it turns out, Hasbro have managed to widen the net somewhat, although there are still some very obvious exclusions and some very questionable pricing. First of all, the campaign is now available on Hasbro's European portal at eu.hasbropulse.com, where the price in euros is $299.99. You can back the campaign at this website for delivery to Austria, Germany, Spain and Italy. You cannot back the game in France. Why not? Well, as far as I know, if you want to sell something in France you have to include a French language instruction manual, and Hasbro are not translating HeroScape for the European territories. So that's an important note. Even if you back through the EU portal, you will receive an English language edition of the game. Also, it's now possible to back the game in Australia and New Zealand. Hasbro have partnered with EB Games in these territories, and I will put links in the video description below. But here's the kicker. If you are in Australia, you are going to have to pay $788 with a $100 deposit up front. If you are in New Zealand, you are going to have to pay $799 with a $400 deposit up front. Even taking into account exchange rates, those prices seem particularly egregious and unlikely to draw in many backers from those territories. It's also indicative of a larger problem with this campaign that presents a significant hurdle to overcome if this game is ever going to fund. What Hasbro are asking for from backers is just too much. Now I know that statement will make the HeroScapers bristle, but hear me out. If we ignore that anomalous Australian situation, I don't think the asking price for this campaign is excessive. You are getting a lot of miniatures, 71 of them, almost all of which are unique sculpts. That's 50 units to combine for a massive amount of replayability. And you are getting 74 land tiles, 9 jungle tiles and 68 wall pieces, which is a lot of terrain for limitless customizable maps to fight over. I know that 9 jungle tiles on eBay currently runs to about $120, so for old school HeroScapers, just the terrain in this offering is probably going to be worth the price of admission. But Hasbro don't need to convince the old guard to back, they probably already have. Well, a lot of them at least. I'll get to that. So if I think the asking price isn't too bad and a lot of HeroScapers are probably very excited, what's the problem? Well, at the time of making this video, after almost a week of funding, there are less than 2,000 backers, and Hasbro need 8,000 backers if they want this game to go into production. Now I'm no expert, but I can see several reasons why funding isn't flying at this point. First of all, HeroScape isn't HeroQuest. Yes, it has a strong fan base, but HeroQuest was the granddaddy, a slam dunk. There was never any real doubt that HeroQuest would fund, even when huge chunks of the population weren't allowed to put down their money during the campaign. Everybody knows HeroQuest, everybody knows its legacy, everybody knows what they're getting with that game. But HeroScape isn't quite the same. There is no denying its popularity. I would never want to diminish how popular it was or what an impact it had on the gaming scene. But it never really had a big following in the UK, to the best of my knowledge at least, certainly not like its following in America anyway. And now it's 12 years later. That's long enough that a lot of current gamers won't know what the game is about, and Hasbro have done next to nothing to tell them. This is a campaign that can't just rely on nostalgia and the legendary status of one of the most popular dungeon crawlers of all time. The uninitiated will want to see playthroughs and rulebooks and designer diaries. What does each new unit bring to the table? Why are the miniatures in different colours? What are the rules for army building? What kind of scenarios can you play? Apparently you get 20 in the box, but what are they? The Hasbro Pulse HasLab platform doesn't even give backers a centralised platform for discussing the game. Some of this information is available in other places. You can hunt down the coverage from the Hasbro PulseCon, for example, but for people just going to HasLab expecting to get all of the information on the campaign page, they won't find it. And speaking of the uninitiated, those people who have never played HeroScape but might like to give it a try, there is no pledge level for them. Hasbro have offered a single all-in pledge at $250. That price may be reasonable for the content, but it's still going to be a bridge too far for many people, especially considering the state of the world today. A minimum of 8,000 all-in pledges just to get the wheels turning for the game to go into production is a big ask. I feel there needs to be a smaller pledge level, maybe around $125, the taster level that gives you a good starting point. Then you can have add-ons to drive the funding total and an all-in pledge for the people who are sold on what the game has to offer. Now some campaigns can do it. Some campaigns can draw in thousands of all-in pledges at even higher price points than what Hasbro is asking, but often those campaigns are driven by popular IPs, something like Marvel Zombies from Cool Mini or Not, for example. Normally, even on a big campaign, you aren't going to see that many people going all in. Zombicide 2nd Edition is probably a nice comparison. That got over 21,000 backers, but only 5,724 backers went all in, and that was at $180, not $250. Can it be done though? Can Hasbro reach their total? Of course, but backers need incentivizing, and Hasbro is lacking here. They have offered some stretch goals, but those goals are set not at funding levels, but at backer levels. There has to be 10,000 backers before the first unlock, and 16,000 backers to get all of the unlocks. How many campaigns get 16,000 individual pledges, all at $250? How many campaigns can raise $4 million without any add-on purchases, no pledge levels for people who aren't confident enough to buy everything, only 5 stretch goal miniatures, 7 if you include the 2 exclusives that are part of the pledge level as standard, a 5 units per backer cap, only an English language offering, and with some territories still prevented from backing? I don't think the unpainted miniatures are helping either. Personally, I'm a hobbyist. I like painting. You only have to look at my channel to see that. Unpainted miniatures are fine by me, and there will be many other people who will relish the chance to get a selection of really interesting and varied miniatures. For a painter, having a box that contains dragons, monsters, anthropomorphic animals, pirates and aliens is a bit of a dream. I don't enjoy painting the same thing over and over again, and there's no risk of that here. But HeroScape was originally pre-painted. It attracted people who weren't necessarily interested in painting. Furthermore, this new edition is being advertised as compatible with the original, but people who don't paint and have lots of the old pre-painted stuff may not be too keen to mix painted and unpainted miniatures on the tabletop. The full colour table presence, varied colourful armies sprawling across colourful 3D battlefields was part of HeroScape's charm. And I know it's early days yet. It's far too soon to say the game won't fund, and I'm certainly not saying it won't fund. The campaign is actually running for another 40 days. That's a huge amount of time in which anything could happen, and the backer total is slowly ticking up, but I think HeroScape has a hill to climb. I hope it makes it. I don't want to come across as negative or like I want it to fail. I really don't. I want every game to come to market and find its audience. I want every gamer to have their perfect game. I want everybody to enjoy this hobby with the products they love. Heck, I might even consider buying a core set at retail just to give it another try, as it's been so long since I played it last. I want it to succeed, and I hope Hasbro want it to succeed enough to make sure this campaign pushes through, but they might need to reevaluate their expectations. It will definitely be interesting to see how the campaign unfolds going forwards. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, because that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider pressing the like button. If you've really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.